Hi, my name is Alistair. I'm going to be presenting to you today on my Stratis Decentralized Accelerator proposal for Stratis DevEx. Stratis DevEx is a project to revamp the Stratis smart contract tooling and developer experience to offer a better, frictionless, more integrated interface for developing smart contracts with a focus on security using Visual Studio. And I should warn you that we have a lot of pets, so if you hear a lot of pet noises during this presentation, please don't be alarmed. So when we talk about blockchain adoption, we can distinguish two types of software generally. First, you have consumer software, and these are things like apps for social media, shopping, gaming, sports, the regular stuff that we all use that connects to the internet. And in these apps, blockchain adoption tends to be driven by the usage of cryptocurrency and the ability to have decentralized, anonymous payments that anyone can easily make. And typically, what we see is new apps that are built to incorporate blockchain technology, using new tools and SDKs. So Stratis has an SDK for Unity, for example, and we see a lot of new games being developed that incorporate Stratis blockchain technology. Now, the second general category is enterprise software. Now, this is generally a lot different from consumer software because the main targets are large organizations, and these organizations, they have these different processes. This is talking about finance, banking, manufacturing, logistics, healthcare. They have all of these processes and partners, and they want to streamline these processes between these partners. Now, all of these processes, they have existing systems. So one of the main things is that for enterprise blockchain systems, they have to integrate with the organization's existing systems, the technology they have now, and the developer knowledge. Now, Stratis being .NET based is somewhat targeted towards more enterprise blockchain rather than consumer. Both areas are important, but as a key way to differentiate Stratis as a blockchain platform is that it is .NET based, so it's very appealing to enterprise developers. Now, just looking at some of the use cases, things like supply chain management, payments, identity, there's actually a Stratis identity solution. So Stratis actually has some pre-built solutions for some of these cases, but these are generally the types of systems that a enterprise blockchain will be looking to integrate with. Now, because of the pandemic, we've seen that blockchain spending has really increased because now we see that we need these decentralized, resilient systems that can track goods and payments and records. And these are decentralized. They can survive lockdowns, disruptions, all the things that we saw happening globally in the past 2 years, across different industries, finance, pharmaceutical, agriculture. There are a lot of really interesting use cases for enterprise blockchain, and I mean this is an area really that Stratis really should really focus on and look to drive adoption. But the thing about it is that right now, in terms of the top enterprise blockchain platforms, you have Ethereum. Okay, that's by far the most popular blockchain platform for writing apps. Consensus Quorum. This is actually a version of Ethereum that's been developed as sort of like a permission private blockchain for enterprises. You have Hyperledger Fabric. That's actually an open source. It's an open source group of technologies. They actually support different languages, and IBM Blockchain actually is a commercial provider of Hyperledger Fabric. That's the technology that IBM uses in its blockchain solution. R3 Corridor and Ripple, these two tend to focus more on the financial industry. And I believe Ripple is more of a blockchain. It's not, I don't believe Ripple has a smart contract platform. But these basically are the top 5 enterprise blockchain platforms. Now, what we see in the industry is you have these blockchain consortiums where you have a couple of technology partners, like technology providers, plus the other industry partners that are going to be working together. Remember, we said that for a blockchain is about its use in enterprises, it's used for connecting different partners. So what we see are these blockchain consortiums forming based on a particular technology. So we see them as far as the blockchain infrastructure, they're being built around Corda, IBM, Hyperledger Fabric, Quorum. Okay, so these really are the major players in terms of enterprise blockchain. Now, significantly, Stratis, of course, isn't present here right now. Okay, Stratis has right now the major affiliation Stratis has right now in terms of enterprise partners would be as a technology service provider for the Open Banking Consortium, that particular movement, right? And that's a really good achievement. But obviously, we really want to be able to drive adoption of Stratis, across industry, and being able to be part of industry coalitions. That's a really, really important part. So we need really to see Stratis get in with one of these consortiums in the near future. So the question is, how do we promote Stratis platform adoption by enterprises? Now, one thing we can look at what are the roadblocks to blockchain adoption. Well, there are three that we can look at. One of them is knowledge. Okay, so in blockchain, there's a bunch of new concepts. The whole idea of digital ledger technology, it's a bunch of new concepts. And it's made doubly hard by the fact you have to learn, most of the time, you have to learn a new language. Okay, most enterprise developers are familiar with .NET, Java, C++. So languages like Solidity or tools like Remix or Truffle, tools that typically are used in blockchain development, and this is something that developers will have to learn, or, you would have to hire blockchain developers. And right now, there's a really squeeze on blockchain talent. Salaries are very high, there's a lot of competition. So just having that knowledge to be able to develop blockchain solutions, that's one barrier. And the second thing is integration. So remember we said that for enterprise software, not so much consumer. Okay, consumer software, things like JavaScript, these things are really popular. But for enterprise software, what you have is you have mostly, it's a combination of .NET, Java, and these other traditional languages, enterprise languages. And organizations have these existing systems, they have their teams, they have their tools. Okay, .NET is a big part of that. And if you want to adopt blockchain for enterprise, for organization, you're going to have to integrate new systems, blockchain technology and new teams. And if you have to hire blockchain developers, these are people you have to integrate into your existing teams and basically integrating all of this new technology. So that's something that is also a roadblock right now. It's a barrier to blockchain adoption, that integration need. And the third thing we can look at is the security. So of course, security is an ever-present concern in blockchain development. Every day, almost every day, we hear about security incidents. And obviously, if you're an enterprise or an organization, especially in areas like finance, security is going to be a really, really important. It's going to be a really, really important concern. And the just having the bad reputation of blockchain software as far as security, that also is a barrier to blockchain adoption by businesses and enterprises. Now, these three roadblocks, they connect to each other, because the main thing is, if you're unfamiliar with technology, with blockchain technology, and you have a lack of knowledge, a lack of experienced developers, then you're going to it's inevitable you're going to have basically this problematic design. You're going to come up with, smart contracts that aren't optimal or may have flaws, and that directly leads to security vulnerabilities. So these three roadblocks are all connected. They all derive from this unfamiliarity and a lack of knowledge. Okay, so if Stratis wants to drive enterprise adoption, then one strategy is to look at how Stratis can remove these blockades to blockchain adoption. And of course, being .dev-based, Microsoft has really focused a lot of resources over the years on their developers, on .NET developers. So, really that's one of the keys to fostering .NET, to fostering blockchain adoption by enterprises, to focus on the developers. Okay, now being .NET based, Stratis has a lot of differentiators. It uses the .NET CLR as the smart contract virtual machine. Now that's really unique, because most of the time what you see is, for example, with the Ethereum virtual machine and other virtual machines, they basically create a virtual machine, use a custom virtual machine, and then you have your tool and languages and compilers that target that virtual machine. But what Stratis did was to actually use the .NET CLR. So because of this, you can use the entire .NET toolchain. Stratis smart contracts are just basically assemblies, ordinary .NET assemblies. You use all of the tools you use for writing code, for compiling, for debugging, for testing. It's just regular .NET code. So that's really, really a big differentiator for the Stratis platform. And of course, you have Microsoft investment. Compared to, say, Solidity, Microsoft is a huge company, and .NET is their premier development technology. So they are investing a lot of money into .NET development and .NET tools, .NET support. So C# and Visual Basic, these are consistently on the top 10 of languages, and Visual Studio as well as consistently in the top set of IDEs used. So these things that does focus on .NET development for the Stratis platform. That's really the key strategic differentiator for the Stratis platform. So because Stratis is focused on .NET, okay, that can basically reduce one of the major barriers to blockchain adoption, right? Which is having to have that new knowledge. If you're using .NET and C# for your smart contracts, it means there's a much smaller learning curve. Okay, you can use your existing .NET teams and existing .NET talent and knowledge for your smart contract development. So that's really one differentiator, and it's really one thing that we can look at. If we want to get enterprises to adopt Stratis. Okay, so these are just some pictures of a Solidity ID. This is the Remix ID. So we can see things like you have your code editor, but you also have the ability to deploy contracts to different blockchain networks, and everything is basically integrated in one place. Basically, everything you need to develop and deploy and to run transactions, everything here is integrated into one place, right? But if we compare this developer experience with Stratis, right now Stratis, you have basically multiple tools for doing. You have C# editing, you have a command line tool to do compilation and validation, and either you use the Cirrus Core wallet or the REST API to deploy your smart contract and to run your smart contract. Okay, so right now it's not integrated, and also you don't have right now on Stratis these integrated static analysis tools. So with Solidity, you have these tools for static analysis of smart contract code, and there are many different tools, and you have integration into the Solidity environment, but this doesn't happen right now with Stratis. So one thing that we can do is we want to achieve this parity in developer experience between Solidity and Stratis, and that is what this project is going to be about. Okay, and so right now, most of the development happens with Stratis in Visual Studio, and Visual Studio is one of the most popular, enterprise IDEs. Okay, and Visual Studio has the ability to be extended. So if you use Visual Studio, you can do different things like mobile development, desktop development. So it has all these extension points that you can use to extend Visual Studio for any sort of workload that you actually need. You can integrate different tools, different APIs, and using the Roslyn Analysis. So Roslyn Analysis are technology for C# analysis. And you can use these in Visual Studio also in other IDEs. So other IDEs like JetBrains Rider, that's a really popular one that runs on Mac and Linux, and also VS Code. They support Roslyn Analysis too. So if you build your static analysis using Roslyn Analyzers, you can actually use this in other IDEs besides Visual Studio. Okay, so these are some of the, and really Visual Studio, if you compare Visual Studio to Remix, Visual Studio is a far more advanced platform for development than other IDEs. So this is another key differentiator of Stratis. So what this project is going to be about is to extend Visual Studio, basically to bring parity between the Stratis developer experience and the Solidity developer experience for smart contracts. Okay, so we want to be able to extend Visual Studio, create a Visual Studio extension, and things like Roslyn Analyzers, okay, for doing smart contract development. We want to integrate different tools. So we have the REST API for Stratis that we can use to do a lot of contract and account operations. We want to be able to integrate using that API into Visual Studio. We have the Silver. So Silver is a tool for static analysis and formal verification of smart contracts. We want to be able to integrate that tool into Visual Studio, and we want to be able to use Roslyn Analyzers for building our static analysis. So we can use you can use that static analysis on different IDEs. Okay, so let's look at some of the features that I've planned to implement for this project. So this is a picture of Solidity coding inside Visual Studio Code. So there's a picture of what the different things that you can do as far as static analysis. So you basically, with static analysis, you can just look at what the developer is writing, and you can make recommendations. So here on the left side, you see it's giving you a recommendation as to things that might actually increase the gas of what you're using. But it's just giving you a recommendation of what you're writing right now, and you can configure the static analysis to check for different things. Okay, so this is something we want to do. So first of all, we want to do validation. So right now, to validate smart contract code, you have to run a command line too. So we want to be able to move that into Visual Studio. The different validation rules, we'll have them inside the editor, and that will be, since it's built on a routes and analyzer, that's also going to be available on other IDEs as well. So source code validation is one of the things that we want to do with our developer experience. Okay, so this is the Silver and routes analyzer. And right now there are some rules for validation rules that Silver uses, and this is basically what it looks like when you're using Silver inside Visual Studio. So we want to bring the same experience we want to bring it basically in the official Stratis Visual Studio extension. We want to have it looking something like this. Okay, and the second thing is, as far as static analysis, we want to be able to use the same resonance technology to be able to detect issues. If something is discouraged, if there are patterns that are discouraged, or if it's not going to be efficient gas usage, or if there are security issues. That's a really important thing. So we want to be able to use this static analysis to be able to surface these issues for developers as they're coding inside Visual Studio. Okay, now the second thing is we're going to look at is that inside with Solidity, when you're working with Solidity, you can connect to different blockchain networks. You can connect to different nodes, different networks on that nodes are running to, and you can deploy your contracts very, very easily from inside Visual Studio. So one of the things is, okay, we want to be able to, again, to connect to the REST API from Visual Studio. And basically, the things that, if you use Visual Studio before, you can, like with servers, you can bookmark servers, organize them. Also, we want to be able to do things like that. We want to be able to, so you should be able to just enter an address, and you could just get the bytecode of that smart contract just from the address. We want to be able to look at, so when we store things in the smart contract persistent storage, you'll be able to inspect those things and all the things happening inside Visual Studio. Okay, we can list the account, given an address, just list the account operations on that particular address, those transactions. And if you have a node running on your machine, you can just be able to do different admin operations like start, stop. And one of the things also that I would like to do is, to be able to package a Stratis full node. So if you're a developer, you could just basically like install a package from Visual Studio, the Visual Studio gallery, and you could have a node running, basically a node running inside Visual Studio. Okay, so you don't need to actually, so if you're a Visual Studio developer and you want to get started with Stratis, you don't need to actually install anything externally. You can just download extension that has the Stratis full node built in, and you can start and stop and control. So that's also one thing that I actually want to work on for the Visual Studio extension. Okay, so this is another feature we're looking at. So this is in Solidity. You can basically do this type of source code visualization. This is a call graph of a smart contract, and on the right side, this is showing you the class structure, the different members in a smart contract class. So that's another feature that we want to be able to do in with Stratis, be able to visualize smart contract code, whether as call graph or the control flow graph or the class hierarchy, be able to visualize that, and so you can also navigate through the code. And I mean, if you're talking about like big smart contract code bases like Opdex, this would be really useful to be able to navigate through that a very large code base of smart contracts, using these graphical tools. Okay, and that right now Silver has that capability. So a lot of the static analysis stuff is already completed. The core functions are available in Silver. So the core development task would just be basically to integrate what Silver does inside Visual Studio. Okay, so another feature we can look at is just, so right now when smart contract is going to be deployed on the mainnet, it has to be reviewed. And usually the way that we do this is that we send out, the Stratis developers will send out a pull request and ask for review. So with this feature, you'd be able to basically to review a GitHub pull request to the Cirrus repo or for any repo directly from Visual Studio. So you can just basically right click and say, import a pull request, put in the PR URL and be able to pull the code from that directly into Visual Studio. Or if there's no source code attached, you can just pull the bytecode and decompile it. So you can actually see the source code of the smart contract, and you can just look at it and do a review. So that should make life, a little easier for those who have to do reviews of smart contracts. Again, that is something that Silver can do right now. It's just a matter of integrating that into Visual Studio. Okay, now one major part of the project is for a technique called formal verification. So formal verification basically is where you use static analysis to prove that a program has certain properties. And right now with Ethereum, there's a lot of interest in formal verification for being able to find design defects and errors in Ethereum code. So formal verification is it's a growing area of interest in smart contract development, and Silver can support formal verification of C# Stratis smart contracts. So a big part of the project is going to be to integrate that capability of Silver to do formal verification into Visual Studio. So you can see it. So instead of having to go to the command, you can see basically the Silver output directly in the IDE. Okay, so those are just some of the features. And so the timeline for this project, if we can start in December, by the end of next year, we should be able to implement all the different features. And of course, and the budget is going to be just budgeted for 12 months of development at $72,000. Okay, and just a little bit about me. I'm a 20-year-plus developer. I've been working with Microsoft technology for a really long time. I've also been working in security for a while, doing security auditing and also Visual Studio extension. And I also participated in the Stratis Build Hackathon. And so my project for that was the Silver Static Analyzer and Formal Verifier. Okay, so I really look forward. I'm really, really, really fascinated by Stratis. I think it's a really, really really powerful concept. It has a lot of potential, and we're looking forward to participating, with the Stratis community. Okay, so that's it. So that's my presentation. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you guys on Discord and so on. So thank you very much.